The Process, a podcast about creativity and experimental music. In the world of experimental music, outcomes and accolades for creators can be uncertain and at times seem far and few between. Therefore, creators and practitioners of experimental music must embrace the one thing they will always have complete control over: the process. This podcast aims to understand this creative process by listening to new works and discussing them with their creators. Each episode focuses on one creator and their music. Understanding how and why they create can inform aspiring creatives and help audiences better understand and navigate experimental music. I'm Dr. Doug Bielmeyer, and I'll be your host as we explore the world of experimental music, creativity, and the human need to find purpose in their world and lives. This is The Process.
I think it's like there's no hard set rule for me, but generally speaking, I'm a very emotionally driven composer.
Yeah.
So whether that's like there's a feeling in my body that I need to get out and I can't get it out any other way than to sit in it, or I want to process it through the writing process.
Yeah.
Or like I'll find a, little melody or like motif that makes me feel something, and I want to sit in that feeling and excavate kind of what that means.
Yeah.
To be in that world.
Yeah. And so you find yourself, it can just be an emotion, it can be a mood. So do you find that like the creative process is sort of a therapeutic? I find it that way. I find it like sometimes I'm like, I just got to go write and like get this out. Do you find yourself doing that, like using the music to kind of work through some stuff?
Absolutely. It's like, it's such a hard thing to, maybe you can relate to this. It's a hard thing to try and describe being both. You're both like so far away from yourself and also so close to yourself and like what you're feeling at the same time.
Right.
And I find that it's very helpful to put something into art like outside of myself, and then I can look at it a little bit more critically and see. Yeah. That doesn't always yield the best art, but like it's art that's meaningful to me. And then I think then the process of like going back and seeing, okay, well, how do I make this something that is can be for other people as well.
Yeah, more universal. Yeah. I notice sometimes I'll go back and listen to something that I wrote years ago or something like that and be like, oh man, I was like really going through it. Like, or like, wow, that was that vibe I was having at that point, or like it just transcends into the music. Definitely.
Totally.
Yeah. So, okay. So you have this emotional response to something, and you now need to go be creative. And I really look at it that way. I look at it like I need to go be creative. So where do you turn to? Do you turn to the guitar? Is it the piano? Are you writing notes on a page?
Yeah, I am. For most of my life, I've been a real Sibelius baby, and I just go right into Sibelius and
right into Sibelius,
right into the MIDI. It's
hardcore
real
composer. That's
real awful. No, it's great. I love Sibelius. I owe them my life. But um, I I recently I am working a little bit more to write kind of more guitar based singer-songwriter songs. And I think that probably One Was Gleaming is the like stepping stone between what I'm trying to do now and just like the straight ahead chamber music that I have to also write. And so just trying to get closer to like what does it mean to write a song that is portable, I guess, in a way, is something I'm thinking about more. So writing more guitar songs.
I think that's something that really drew me to the album and listening to it was it felt like music in a transition from sort of, or not transition, but in multiple worlds, where it felt like it was in sort of a classical tradition, like somebody who's sitting down writing in Sibelius, but then also, I don't know, a more commercial or more pop world as well. So that's interesting. So that's really interesting. So I sit down in front of the computer. I like, you know, and I mean, Sibelius is on the computer, right? But like actually writing notes, that's not something I do right away. I'm usually, improvising more. So,
cool.
so you're saying you just sort of write it out and sort of do it that way. Is that just comes from sort of your education and your background of like, you're a capital C composer and like, that's what composers do. They kind of sit down and write.
I think, honestly, I came to Sibelius quite early. I was really lucky. I had a teacher in high school who had it and let me use his copy. And I think before that, like when I was really a kid and I was starting to compose, I did it all in like through recording. So I would record myself playing a million different things and layer it all. And,
is this on the computer now, or?
Yes, this was very, very early. I'm very much a like technology. I owe a lot to GarageBand and Sibelius and whatnot. But I think I am someone who likes to hear everything all at once. I don't know if that's because I need to like hone my inner ear or because I just want to sit in a recording the same way that I would sit in someone else's piece as I'm writing it. Because the recording process is like still one of my favorite parts of the whole thing. But I came up in both songwriting but also kind of classical orchestration tradition for most of my life. With the last few years, 10 years, I don't know, I've been working a lot in orchestral music. I was just the composer in residence, one of the composers in residence with the Louisville Orchestra this last season. So I think writing directly into the computer is both something that's comfortable for me now, but also it can save some time. Like churning out these deadlines and have to make parts fast and all that stuff.
Lady with your heart so wide, wider than your fears and tears and pride, like the low tide sure to rise, so your heart endures. Lady of determined words, steady as a river undeterred, ready as the breeze that steals the bird. When will I be like you, always moving through the crush of hurting grace, like rain breaking over the brush fire burning. Yours is patience. I tried to trust, I am learning.
We started recording this. I had moved to New York in 2019, late 2019, and I started recording this record with Christopher Botta at First Sound in Brooklyn. And we did one track, and then it was January 2020, and then obviously everything changed. And it's very funny, actually, when we had started recording, this was a very different kind of record. I had, I think, 9 or 10 songs that I'd been working on for the last like 5 years. The first track we recorded was from that set. And then I think my just what the project became shifted so much emotionally for me. Also the way that we did it, like it became a very much pandemic virtual recording experience.
You said a lot of it was sort of like home recordings, and people were doing it in offices and places where they could kind of put a mic and have a little bit of silence.
Yeah, got a lot of, basically it became a giant game of like, not telephone, but kind of telephone, where I had a Logic file or a GarageBand file I was sending out to people. They would send me back their stem. I would send them the sheet music, and we'd go back and forth a bit. And yeah, a lot of this was people very graciously recording in living rooms and kitchens, and you know, which at the time it was kind of selfishly so meaningful to me to feel connected to my community in that way. And I'm just like, I'm gonna start crying and talk about it, but I'm so grateful to all of these musicians who were like, yeah, I'm down to record on your track. Like, I don't know what the world is right now, but sure. So I just, I'm so grateful.
Yeah, and it's wonderful. And then even just the flip of that is, I think a lot of these musicians too, who are performing like every night of the week, right? Like all of a sudden now it's like there's no gigs. And obviously there's the financial component to that, but also just if you're a performer, like you perform, and if you're not doing that, so I think in a way too, some of these projects, like during that time too, I had a bunch of musicians who were like recording things in their bathroom, and I was like, hey, it's a little echoey in there. Could you maybe move to a different room, one with a rug? And so there was a lot of that going on. So all this kind of recording happened in 2020, 2021, right? That was kind of when things weren't really unknown. At what point did then these recordings get into a studio? Like, did you do your vocals all in a studio, or how did it, like, what was the next step after that?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think we were all figuring out how to do these kinds of virtual pandemic projects. And the biggest thing that I learned in that process is like, if you have a good, kind, patient engineer or mixer,
well-fed,
like, I mean, man, anything is possible if you have someone like Christopher Bada, who's the person who I worked with on this record. He really made, I mean, you have all these different recording qualities, like super tight. Sometimes people didn't totally know what settings to be on. And then you're like, he just, he was so patient. And so like, and it's a weird thing, I'm sure, as an engineer to get all this stuff that like, you might have recorded it differently, or like maybe there would have been a different, and then you're still trying to like reinterpret that and put it together into something cohesive. So yeah, he did some real magic on this record that I'm so grateful for.
Yeah, I laughed a little bit just because like a lot of times I get stuff from clients where it's just like, where did you record that? Was this like recorded at an airport? Why is there, and so a lot of times, there's a lot of sort of weaving and sort of, layering and things you have to do. But that's fun. That's part of the process. But like you said, to have somebody who's really engaged in that and is willing to kind of sit down and take the time to put all that together. And clearly when we're listening to it, I mean, it feels like this very organic kind of moving live thing. And that's one of the things, it was sort of mentioned, I think, in some of the writing. I'm not sure if it was on the Bandcamp or one of the other pages, but this idea of the approach that you took for the instrumentation, and specifically on One Was Gleaming, the title track, there's this idea of maximalism or maximalist. So describe that a little bit.
I love a big instrument, like a big arrangement. I think when I was growing up, the kinds of records that I was attracted to were like big orchestral records with songwriters, and a lot of things kind of fitting together that maybe you couldn't do in real life, but on a studio record it's possible to have like 6 guitars all flowing. I don't know.
Absolutely.
So that is something that I always really enjoy thinking about in recording. And I think, just thinking about recording as like a separate artifact than a chamber piece is something that I've been trying to train my brain into. I think for a long time I had the feeling of like, oh, well, if it's not something that I could put on a stage exactly as is, I didn't orchestrate it well, or it's not, you know, like a legit piece of music. And now I think I'm just really enjoying the process of creating something that really is just for recording and just for that kind of space out of a speaker or in headphones. And so these arrangements in particular, I mean, we have on One Was Gleaming prepared piano and then 2 layered grand pianos. One that was recorded.
So just logistically, like,
it's like
on a stage, it's like, where are we going to put all these?
No, it's very fun. I actually, as a side note, I do perform this piece live, but it's with one piano.
Only one. Okay.
Yes, just one.
So there'll be somebody in the audience is like, well, you've got to hear it with 3, right? It's really it's really only the true version with 3. Right?
Yeah. But I love. So I love a really kind of like tightly knit sound world. A lot of things going on. And I think just like emotionally as well, I mean, the prepared piano and just like regular grand piano sounds were to kind of get at the idea of the song. And a lot of the record is the idea of One Was Gleaming in particular is that it's a love song to the version of yourself you would like to be. And so throughout the record as a whole, there's prepared piano and regular piano. I don't know a better way to say that. Not prepared piano.
Unprepared.
Unprepared. Thank you.
That sounds like they didn't practice or something, right? Unprepared.
But you have them kind of up against each other in a way that I think reflects like just 2 different sides of the same coin. And 2 different sides of this kind of like the narrator and what they're going through.
Yeah, you know, and I noticed even like in the form of the piece too, we have sort of this A idea, which starts with the lady phrase, which is kind of so that A idea starts with the lady, and then we have sort of the next paragraph, which is the softer. You're even using a softer voice, you know, singing style. So. Can you talk a little bit about that, about your vocal performance, you know, being sort of like full voice, almost like operatic in some ways where it's really supported, and then other times it's very, very thin.
No, thank you. I appreciate that. It's funny, I've been having this conversation a lot recently about what it means to have a song that is both explores the internal and the external at the same time. And I think something for me in my music, and this is a very like Sondheim approach from what I understand, but like you have an arrangement, like either the singer is doing one thing and you have an arrangement that is kind of amplifying that thing, or the singer is doing one thing and you have an arrangement that's telling you something else about the singer. Like
it's a flawed narrator where what they're saying is not really the case.
So that's one way I love to explore kind of internal versus external and audience relationship and whatnot. But I also really love just kind of, shifting perspective to put in a song. And how do you make, as people, we have so many different voices inside of us at all times. And you might be saying like outwardly something very confident, and then there's a part of you that knows differently inside. And how do you put like, multiple kind of parts of yourself in a song? And I think one way is vocal technique. Like what's fragile and what's boisterous, and why.
You
when I first applied to music school, it was
Yeah.
because I wanted to become a better composer so that I could arrange songs better.
Great.
And then that kind of transformed into like a love of just orchestra and kind of the classical forms and instrumentations. But I think at the root of who I am, I love song and I love arrangement. And so yeah, I don't know if it was like,
And this gives you the opportunity to do both. Yeah. 'Cause
yeah,
it is
absolutely.
still song based, but then there's such rich orchestrations that happen. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, very cool. You know, one of the other things you mentioned is that you're recording a lot with friends and with people you know. I think sometimes there's this trope about, you know, you're working with all, you know, different types of people, and it's like, you know, whoever the label pays for and okays and that type of thing, right? But you said the majority of this recording, as well as some of the other work you do, is with people that you know and are part of maybe the community that you are. So how is that important, or how is that part of your creative process?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a group of friends that I've had since like freshman year, college, who we all came up together. They're some of my dearest, closest personal friends, and also the people who I often write for. Even if I'm not writing for them, I'm thinking about them when I'm writing. Like Sonia Belaya is a pianist that I work with quite often. And one of my dearest friends, and I think like writing for her over the last 10 years has kind of taught me how to write for piano for anybody. So like those relationships are so, Nicole Patrick is one of the main drummers on this record. They're like also one of my dearest friends. And these drum parts even are, I've learned to write for drums. I think I'm probably like better at it than I was when this record came out at this point. But I've learned to write for drums through kind of their collaboration and their kindness and
sort of feedback. Do you find yourself being like, oh, I'll write this, they'll like this, like this is what they like they like this type of, you know, rhythm, or, you know, this style?
I can always like hear, you know, there's these people that you work with and their sound gets so closely linked to just kind of how you hear the instrument in general. Like Tegan Farron is one of the violinists on this record. She's someone that I have written for also for many years, and I think I can like hear her a little bit at all times when I'm writing for violin.
So you're not just envisioning the instrument, but you're envisioning the person playing that instrument too. So in like the way they approach it. Yeah,
which is, it's such a treat, you know, because I think when you're in the orchestral world, we're just getting commissions as a chamber music player. Like that's not always the case, and so it is very sweet to have the chance to think about the people that you would want to work with when you're writing for them.
So you're not just writing a clarinet part for like this abstract clarinet that has this range. It's like the person that is playing that. And a lot of the people on this record, I mean, they're dear friends. I mentioned the flute and the bassoon, Amir Farsi and Alex Davis are the players. But there are also people who like, I think they like the kinds of music that I also like. So we share kind of a vocabulary of just like interest in sound worlds. And that's really helpful. Actually, one of the bass player, she and I have like a total shared interest in vocabulary and kind of folk and pop music. And I remember like talking to her about some Grizzly Bear records when I was sending her this, and she was like, oh, I think I know what you want. And then she added some flourishes that were like so right on, and it's very cool. See, I think it's really helpful to know, like, not just having a musician, but somebody who understands what you're trying to go for.
Totally.
I think in those like random, like, you know, commissions where you're just like, wait, I don't really know what this person does. A lot of times it's not being like, is this playable or this? It's like, wait, what tone are you going for here? I find that with guitarists all the time. I'm just like obsessed with like, wait, no, I was thinking more like this, you know, 70s guitarist versus this. You're doing more like a 90s guitar sound, like a 70s, you know, or like that's not the vibe. Like they wouldn't do that in this genre. So style can be like almost more than half of it. Like that you're
Yeah.
playing the right notes, but is it with the right tone, right style? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Tanner, this has been fantastic talking to you about the new album. One Was Gleaming. Before we let you go, talk a little bit about your album, where we can find it, where we can get it, and then tell us about all the other great things that you're doing and just ways we can learn more about you and your music.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me and for all of your very thoughtful questions. This has been
Thank you.
a real pleasure. The album comes out July 12th. There's 9 songs. Oh my gosh, 9 songs. And it's a self-release, so it's just gonna enter the internet on Bandcamp and Spotify and hopefully Apple Music. And I'm not distributing through a label at the moment or anything. So
Sure.
if you have questions about the record, find me online.
Great. We can find you online, and we can also visit your website. That's a great place to learn more about you and your music. Awesome.
Absolutely.
Thanks to Tanner for sharing her time and music with us. If you enjoyed this episode, please check out other episodes in the series. And as always, like, subscribe, or leave a comment on your preferred podcasting app. I'm Dr. Doug Bielmeyer, and this has been The Process.